Hello, everybody, and welcome in. My name's Sean, I'm Fire of Life 2018, and we're here for the weekly Wednesday roundup. Every Wednesday at 9, we get together and we discuss how we can change the world. The reason I'm doing it here is because I feel like it's one of the last places that free speech can be utilized. Twitch is a pretty open platform. You can pretty much say whatever you want on Twitch. I would like to get to the point where people can come to political rallies on their living room couches through Twitch. I mean, like, you can vote from home now. Why would you need to go to rallies and listen at this? This is the easiest way to do it. You can literally follow, subscribe, and get notified when I go online Wednesday at 9. You can also check it over at the YouTube, where I rehash this every week. Sometimes we have guests, sometimes we play games, sometimes we do everything, but the start of the conversation is always about changing the world. I think simply we need term limits. We need to change the way we elect our elected officials, and that would change the world because we get some more new blood into the office and get rid of some of these 80-year-old people that are trying to run for office. So the plan for that is when you go to the polls to vote, especially in your midterm elections, don't forget to vote in your midterm elections. If you're displeased with the candidate choices, write and change the vote. Like, if you go to the polls and you see someone who's there who's awesome and doing whatever, you should definitely vote for them. I believe that. But I think the two political parties are kind of corrupt right now. And the fact that we only really have two is kind of wrong. So I can't fathom that. And if you look into how to start a political party, it costs money. If you look into how to run for office, it costs money, it costs signatures. It's really hard for any normal person to become a senator or congressman at this point. And they're the ones who write our laws. As much as you're distracted by our presidents and what you think who president should be what, it doesn't really matter as much as you think it does, as much as your house or, senator or congressperson. So don't forget to vote in your midterm elections. If you're displeased with your options, write in and change the vote. Simple as that. We want to put in single transferable voting, which I almost always talk about first. Keep forgetting to bring it up. Because single transferable voting is the system that I would choose if I were to be that person who could do anything. But that's not how life works. Like, as a general situation. So I think that single transferable voting is the way to go. And it is a multi-winner electoral system in which voters cast single votes in a form ranked choice ballots. So you only get one vote per ballot, but you get to rank your three. Voters have the option to rank their candidates, and their vote may be transferred according to their preferences. If your preferred candidate is eliminated, so their vote still counts, STV aims to provide a proportional representation based on the votes cast in a district where it's used. So basically, like, they mathematically reduce the lowest person each time, and if your vote is removed, your second choice counts. If your second choice is removed, your third choice counts, and so on and so forth until that person is elected the grand poobah of whatever. So that's why I think this works. There's also a star system voting where you can, like, rate all the candidates, like a 1, 2, 3 stars based on how well you like each candidate, and then however many stars they get at the end is kind of how they're rated. So that's kind of cool. There's lots of other ways and other times that people are using to vote other than what we are currently using to vote. So I think that's why we need to change the vote. And nobody's going to pay money for that. Nobody's going to pay money for term limits. So in our current government system, if you don't pay money to get it done, it won't. And for an example of that, I would like to bring over this video that I found out this week. This is actually from August 10th of 2021. So it's been quite a while that this happened, and there's been tons of things happened since then. We might actually follow up and see if he's still here. But this guy, this is Climate Town. If you have not ever heard of him, go check him out, Climate Town. I'll put a link to this video I'm about to put up here in said chat, and then you can check it out at your leisure and check out the rest of his channel. He has some really informative stuff, so let's listen to this fellow.
To crack open a cold one and then pour a little out for the end of an era here at ExxonMobil. That's right, for 30 years, Exxon has been accused of funding disinformation campaigns and paying off politicians and lying about climate change, and for 30 years they've had one response: it wasn't me. It's the classic Shaggy defense, and it's been incredibly effective for Exxon because all of their senior leadership has stuck to the wasn't me strategy, and their army of lawyers and money has been able to use this blanket denial to
Nope, that's
fight
just
off any
got
legal
some sad
challenge.
violins in the
Until
background
June
there.
of 2021, when ExxonMobil was,
It is pretty sad.
to borrow a phrase from Shaggy, caught butt naked banging on the bathroom floor in an undercover sting operation by Greenpeace activists. Greenpeace contacted ExxonMobil's Senior Director of Federal Relations, a man named Keith McCoy, and pretended to be from a Middle Eastern oil company PR firm that wanted to hire McCoy for a cushy new job. But first, they wanted to know how in the heck Exxon was able to avoid accountability for all of their actions. And Keith McCoy, in full HD, confessed to like 8 different cartoon villain-level evil plots that ExxonMobil had spearheaded to delay action on climate change. 30 years of wasn't me's up in smoke in a single Zoom call.
Did we aggressively fight against some of the science? Yes. Carbon tax isn't going to happen, but it gives us a talking point that we can say, well, what is ExxonMobil for? Well, we're for a carbon tax. They start talking about how this is an ExxonMobil chemical and ExxonMobil is poisoning our waterways. We need Congressman so-and-so to introduce this bill. We need him to make a floor statement. We need him to send a letter. Yeah. You name it. We've asked for everything.
Keith McCoy spent the better part of an hour speed confessing, so there's a lot to unpack, and I urge you to check out the many stories that actual good journalists have written, links in the description. But for me, there were 3 specific turbo confessions that I think were particularly important. These are my confessions. Right out of the gates, if you ever find yourself using the term shadow group to describe your business associates, you're probably not the good guys.
Did we join some of these shadow groups to work against some of the early
shadow
efforts?
Groups.
Yes, that's true. Did we aggressively fight against some of the science? Yes. You know, we were looking out for our investments. We were looking out for...
Never saw the NPR version.
Recording devices. On K Street, Washington, D.C., home of America's most powerful lobbyists, Keith McCoy, a key representative of the biggest oil company in America, is waiting for the call. The timing's vital. What may be America's greatest chance to combat the climate crisis is going through Congress right now. The video connection is set up.
Tore up.
It's time to go to work.
Hi, good to see you.
How are you?
Moments later, Mr. McCoy will become one of the first ever executives to claim that ExxonMobil has aggressively fought climate science using front organizations to maximize shareholder profit.
Did we aggressively fight against some of the science? Yes. Did we join some of these shadow groups to work against some of the early efforts? Yes, that's true. But there's nothing illegal about that. You know, we were looking out for our investments. We were looking out for our shareholders.
In response, Exxon said, "We've supported climate science for decades," and accused Greenpeace of waging a multi-decade campaign against them and the industry. Keith McCoy thinks he's being headhunted for a new job. In fact, of course, he's being covertly filmed. So tonight, a man boasting at a job interview, or a never-seen-before look at how big oil tries to manipulate big power, or both? First, the targets. Congressmen are fish. Exxon is the fisherman.
When you have an opportunity to talk to a member of Congress, you know, I liken it to fishing, right? You know, you have bait, you throw that bait out, you know, it's all these opportunities that you use, and to use the fishing analogy again, just to kind of reel them in, because they're a captive audience. They know they need you, and I need them.
Senators pressed to do Exxon's bidding behind closed doors.
You want to be able to go to the chief, and so the chief knows you, that you can go to the chief and say, look, we've got this issue. We need Congressman so-and-so to be able to either introduce this bill. We need him to make a floor statement. We need him to send a letter. You name it. We've asked for everything.
Everything.
So who are the fish?
I'm Joe Manchin. I approve this act because
The biggest catch, according to Mr. Coy, it's the conservative Democrat Senator Joe Manchin. who famously shot President Obama's cap-and-trade climate bill.
And I'll take dead aim at the cap-and-trade bill.
Joe Manchin, I talk to his office every week. He is
Every
the kingmaker, and he's not shy about sort of staking his claim early and completely changing the debate.
Legal declarations show that Senator Manchin has received tens of thousands of dollars from ExxonMobil and its trade associations. Keith McCoy names 10 other senators as crucial to ExxonMobil. Senators Mark Kelly, Chris Coons, Shelley Moore Capito, Kirsten Sinema, John Tester, Maggie Hassan, John Barrasso, Steve Daines, John Cornyn, and Marco Rubio. All bar Kelly and Hassan have taken money from Exxon totaling $117,000. We gave all these senators a chance to respond, none did so. Exxon insists our lobbying efforts are fully compliant with all laws and are publicly disclosed on a quarterly
100%.
basis.
Yep, that's why we know that information.
Nonetheless, a degree
Everything
of
they're doing is
secrecy
legal.
appears to be key.
I think that's
the
the
last
scarier
thing
part.
Exxon seems to
Everything
want is
they're saying
open
is legal.
accountability, facing Congress in public.
We don't want it to be us to have these conversations, especially in a hearing. It's getting our associations to step in and have those conversations and answer those tough questions and be the for lack of a better term, the whipping boy for some of these members of Congress.
So he says they hide behind trade bodies to avoid public scrutiny on the Hill.
Our CEO was invited to a hearing from a member of Congress who we know is just going to rip him to shreds when he goes there. The main thing that they're looking at is just to get ExxonMobil in front of a congressional hearing so they can rip us apart.
Big oil, big power, big pressure. The route from the K Street lobbyist offices to Capitol Hill is very well trodden. From the street to the Hill, we can now reveal the current ExxonMobil battleground and strategy.
I love how there's
It's
lobbyist
big, yes.
offices.
It's bold, yes. And we can get it done.
Just last week, as America continues to suffer heat waves described as apocalyptic and linked to the current crisis, President Biden fought to get Congress to pass his $2 trillion showpiece law, linking jobs and infrastructure to massive spending to combat climate change. On Capitol Hill, though, Exxon was also fighting to strip out spending on climate. Forget that, it lobbied. Stick to roads and bridges.
So that's a completely different conversation.
I
When
mean,
you start-
like,
when you start
I'm glad
to
they're
stick
still
to
going through
roads
the
and
roads and bridges. Shit.
and instead of a $2 trillion bill, it's an $800 billion bill. If you lower that threshold, you stick to highways and bridges, then a lot of the negative stuff starts to come out. Why would you put in something on emissions reductions on climate change to oil refineries in a highway bill? So, and people say, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So then you get to the germaneness and say that shouldn't be in this bill.
Sure enough, last week
And they just keep
Biden's
talking about it.
behemoth bill evaporated. A new law may be agreed, but major green initiatives are gone. Coincidence? Or the big oil effect? Nothing illegal, just oiling the wheels of power. Exxon said our discussions on the bill are not accurately portrayed. Our lobbying efforts are related to a tax burden that could disadvantage US businesses.
Plants capture CO2.
Recent academic studies show what Keith McCoy alleges is the wider Exxon strategy. Say one thing in public, do another in private. For example, it says publicly it supports a carbon tax. Keith McCoy says privately that's just PR.
You know, nobody is going to propose a tax on all Americans. And the cynical side of me says, yeah, we kind of know that. But it gives us a talking point that we can say, well, what is ExxonMobil for? Well, we're for a carbon tax.
And why?
Which would be great.
Because they're
Carbon tax
confident
is
it'll
good.
never happen in America.
No, it's not going to, a carbon tax isn't going to happen. And the bottom line is it's going to take political courage, political will
Courage.
in order to
That
get
is the political
something done.
courage. Like
And that doesn't exist in politics.
like
It just
not
doesn't.
even.
Exxon told
Aye.
us for more than a decade it's supported an economy-wide price on
This is NPR, by
CO2
the way.
emissions.
We're working on ways to provide energy while addressing the risks of climate change.
Take electric cars. It's all about doubt and delay.
You're not going to be able to just switch to battery-operated vehicles or wind for your electricity. And just having that conversation around why that's not possible in the next 10 years is critically important to the work that we do.
But science is screaming at us that we do not.
Right. There's the big kicker there, is that like they're talking about it like in the next 10 years. This is impossible. We can never do that. But if we don't do it, we're all going to die. So I think humanity can find a way, is what we're trying to say here. I think they can find a way, but if assholes like this guy keep pouring money into our senators and congressmen, it's our problem.
Have
Huge
10
problem.
years. Delay, doubt, deflect. The classic hallmarks of modern day climate crisis denial. And ExxonMobil's alleged involvement in that is thus revealed from the inside tonight, straight from the horse's mouth.
That was NPR, folks. Awful. Awful. We covered single transferable voting. Back in here. Turn it down a little bit. So let's talk about COVID data. We always check COVID data. Daily update for the United States. There's 100,000 new cases, and the trend from April to May seems to be up quite a bit. Deaths is bumpy from April to May, like a little tick on the end. Admissions is on the way up. That's not good. There was 3,604 people admitted today in the whole United States. I don't know. You feel like that doesn't sound like a whole lot. That's good. Let's keep that's good. 82% of people are vaccinated. Great times. I haven't looked to see if my vaccination still counts, but I did get the Johnson & Johnson. I don't know if it still counts for that. We'll find out when I have liver disease or something later. We've watched this fellow, Climate Town. If you have not checked him out, definitely that. Hey, some good news. They've given a grant of 1.25 million pounds to design a revolutionary upper body mobility suit for people who have neuromuscular diseases. So this is the first step to cybernetics right here. First step. A lot of money. So yay for the University of Liverpool. Monkeypox is a thing, and there's quite a few things in this University of Liverpool. Obviously, while I was over there, I noticed they had a monkeypox article. There's a lot of things in this that raise eyebrows in like the first couple of this situations. Let me find it. I'll highlight it for you. I'll just read it to you. A network of NHS and academic experts from across the country, including the University of Liverpool, has published results of a timely study looking at the management of previous cases of human monkeypox viruses in the UK by NHS High Consequence Infectious Disease Network. The High Consequence Infectious Disease Network is investigating this one. Okay. The report, which is published The Lancet Infectious Disease, notes that human monkeypox has rarely been seen outside of the West and Central Africa. However, in the last 5 years, outbreaks in more densely populated centers have occurred for the first time, with human-to-human transmissions well described, raising concerns about the global spread. One such outbreak is the instance we are currently seeing in the UK, where the UK Health Service Agency defines the virus as High Consequence Infectious Disease, HCID. Known symptoms of the virus include fever, characteristic rash, swelling of lymph nodes. Complications can include inflammation of the lungs, brain, and eye, which can be sight-threatening. Along with secondary bacterial infections, the virus can be dangerous, with estimates of mortality associated with outbreaks in the Congo basin having ranged from anywhere between 1 and 10%. Yikes! To put that in, like, terms, the coronavirus was like a 0.25 mortality rate. This one has the 1 to, like, even a 1% mortality rate of COVID would have been disastrous. So, yeah. There's a few things in here. I didn't want to read the whole thing. Until now, monkeypox has been a rare imported condition in the UK. Has treated all 7 of the UK's confirmed cases up until 2021. Outbreaks outside of Africa are unusual, but in recent days, significant outbreaks have been reported in several European countries, including the United States, including the UK, and further afield globally. Clinically, trial data is lacking, and we are pleased to share some of our collective experience in managing this previously rare and sporadic condition. Then go on to talk about treatments of monkeypox, and it seems like there are several treatments, which is good news. Which is good news, really. But CDC has less to say about monkeypox. We can talk about the wars on Ukraine. There's real problems going on in Ukraine right now. They are like these light pink parts are pieces of Ukraine that Russia now occupies, and these dark pinks are things they've advanced in recently. Like, do we skip the video? Watch this here in the video. Roads in Ukraine. Like, this does not look like a road. You really want to be like getting it down, but obviously these guys are like, look at the explosions. Already the roads have been torn up and blocked. I mean, it just blows my mind that we're looking at like modern day Europe. Like, this is a power pole getting. We missed that one. Maybe it's the next one. There's an explosion. The power pole is getting targeted. Like, they're targeting infrastructure, obviously. And you're like, whoa. Just rockets after rockets after rockets. If we land anywhere, you don't see them nowhere until the explosion happens. Rough. It's nuts. Don't forget Ukraine's still a thing, like we did Crimea. Don't forget. Also, in more disturbing news, China. I don't know if you heard about the whole situation with Biden, where he accidentally said that we would send military aid. I'm not sure he's even said accidentally at this point. I'm not sure he's even taken it back. He said that if China invaded Taiwan, the United States would send military aid. Well, I think that might be necessary. I am often concerned if that's going to be a thing. Very concerned. So, yeah. So anyway, that happened. He said that we were going to send troops. And then China today says that they're trying to seek a region-wide deal with almost a dozen Pacific countries, covering policy, security, and data communication cooperation with foreign minister hosts. So he's trying to get a foothold in the Pacific. And he thinks it will cause, like, most of the island Pacific nations that he's entreated feel like they can't not respond because they're China, but they're also terrified that it's going to start a whole new Cold War because the United States has certainly just said we will defend them if China starts spreading stuff out. Like, I'm not sure what's going to happen if China and Russia are in military actions at the same time, especially if the United States gets pulled into one of these. Global warfare is a real thing, and we all have lots of military. It could be a very real situation, and I'm terrified. So there's your news for that this week. So, any other questions? Anybody else seen anything out there in the universe that they'd like to talk about today? That was my half hour of information. Where's your half hour of information, chat? It's supposed to be an open, honest communication. So that's, again, what are we doing in November? We're voting vote for change because we need some change. We've obviously just seen that ExxonMobil has been paying off our senators and congressmen for 40 years in a legal lobbyist situation. So I guess I need to add that to my list of things to do. We need to outlaw lobbyists, term limits, and change the way we elect our elected officials. And I think that would fix all of our governmental problems. If you are looking at international news, I wish I could. It was the Philippines that has a constitutional government much like ours that is so corrupt. The whole government's like the whole country's starving to death, so it's now in like uproar. I think it's not. I think it's Puerto Rico. Might be Sri Lanka. I know Sri Lanka's going through some stuff too. Keeping track with your international news, there's lots of climate change disasters, famine. Like the whole famine is about to be very real. Like Russia and Ukraine are the world's first and second largest producers of grain, and it surely is not being planted if there's battles and people are dying. So grow some food, everybody. You got window boxes or planter boxes, you're gonna need to grow some food this year. I have feelings. If you want me to make videos about growing stuff, I can. I easily can teach you how to grow things, so by all means put that in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow to the channel if you enjoyed my weekly news roundup. I meet here every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and hopefully one day we'll have a following and we will make changes in the world. This is where you want to do it. You're frustrated with the way the government's going, you're frustrated with how it's doing, we can totally do it. We saw what they did with Reddit. We saw the gamers have power. Gamers can totally become a political party. We could just start our own gamer political party, like the Republicans elect their own representatives. I mean, like once you had 1,500 people who would sign a petition, you could run for literally any office anywhere. So that could be fun. We should do that. 1,500 followers doesn't seem like a ridiculous goal. But hey, if you would like to be one of those, be one. Also, if you're watching me on the Twitch and haven't followed the YouTube, go ahead and do that. I will put that into the comments for you now. This is the Discord. If you wanted to join the discussion, you can feel free to join. We're in general chat right now. By all means, pop in, say hello. Any old time, Wednesdays at 9. That's where we'll do the rallies in the Discord. I usually get in there at 8:30 so we can discuss who's going to be on the show. So if you want to be on the show anytime, just come on up to Discord at 8:30 and I'll be there. Be there with bells on. I think my dog just laughed at me. I think that literally happened. Alright, well, since nobody's here this week, I'll end it short again and we'll see you next week. Don't forget, Wednesdays at 9. See you next time.